Basketball anime. There exists a dozen or so, though there really are three that stand above the rest. The holy trinity of basketball anime. The best of the best, love for the game sprinkled through each episode, though each faced with their own highs and lows, two being cancelled before finishing their stories they set out to tell. But that doesn't change their status as all-time greats. Which of these anime deserves the title? King of the Basketball Trinity. What about them indicted their name into the Trinity? And inevitably, what nearly caused them to fall from grace? All that and more as we take a look at the best basketball anime has to offer. Sports anime has a long history, and while not the first basketball story in the manga anime industry, Slam Dunk was a series that launched sports manga to new heights of popularity. From the intensity of a game carefully crafted into an artistic representation, to the layered storytelling practices, its overall tone showcased the love and care Takehito Ino had for the game itself. His well-developed characters felt grounded with purpose and drive to compete at the highest levels, each for their own individual reasons. They were the underdogs, scrappy and hungry to show who they are on the court. The Shohoku basketball team were not fucking around. And then there was the anime. There is a steep tonal change when comparing the source of the story and its anime counterpart. Though instead of picking apart Toei like vultures finding fresh roadkill for adding their own touch to the story, the anime was mostly well received. And looking deeper at the series, we can understand why. While the manga had its fair share of slapstick moments, the anime took this to a whole new level, making Sakuragi more of a goon than a character-developing delinquent. It's upsetting to fans of the manga like me, but it's hard to argue that the anime was devoid of charm, or when it did get serious, it wasn't some of the best basketball in anime. What carried the show was the characters Takehiko created, and the world he set up for Toei to abuse, like the little runts they are with nearly every shonen they touch. Such is the biggest hurdle Slam Dunk's anime faced, respecting the world Takehiko created. Sure, the slapstick was funny at times. It's hard not to laugh at the dynamic between Sakuragi and Gorilla-san, but unquestionably the greatest part of the series, which made me laugh the hardest I have in ages, were the commercial break taglines. Let's get together about TV. If you can hold a ball in a hand, you'll be a great basketball player. Thank you, Japan, for your obsession with random usage of the best broken English. I think it's no secret from this setup that I have my grievances with the anime. Its source material is so perfect that they could have easily made a 10 out of 10 sports anime. Instead, we got a solid 6.5 or 7, carried by the games on the court and the moments of character development that should have been utilized to their fullest potential, and were in a movie that lives up to the manga, which we'll get to later. Sports anime is often renowned when good quality animation meets well-crafted characters and a steadily moving plot. We see it in Haikyuu and Run with the Wind. These stories know where they want to go, and we can feel the momentum and tension as the scale of the game gets bigger and bigger, and the characters are thrown in and forced to adapt. And then there's the Slam Dunk anime. A fault nearly all weekly shonens face is the dragged out story arcs. Oftentimes an event finds itself double the length of episodes it should be. Sometimes mid-game we get a near entire episode of a flashback that we don't need, and an encore chatter. It seems in Japan, if two characters break into conversation, the ref signals to the table to stop the clock and let them cook. Honestly, there are times I skipped the first 6 or 7 minutes of an episode, as all it was a recap. Yet despite, I stuck around to the end of the series. The characters, they made it all worth the journey. Sakuragi, while the stereotype of the quirky goofball main protagonist, went through a journey of self-discovery, learning that while he may have originally started playing to impress a girl, he genuinely loves and has a passion for the sport. Dukawa, the MJ of Japan, all-rounder small forward who has the personality of a socially inept Sasuke. He learns that his strength is also his weakness. Relying on his teammates is the only way he'll become a better player. The budding relationship between these two rivals, though something we see all the time in anime, feels emotionally fulfilling, watching the two players mature and reach greater heights together. Then there's the pillar of the team, Akagi, the gorilla man as the anime likes to remind us every second he's on screen. Their senior center who has his shit together, but must overcome the tribulations of leading this rat pack and burden the weight of being a leader, learning to trust his gut and better judgment. Three-point shooter Mitsui, the one who lost his way, only to find it once again in the game. The classic, talent only gets you halfway, it's up to you to maintain commitment and passion. Point guard Ryota, playing the game with a purpose in memory of his brother. He won't let his height stop him from getting his name under the lights. And of course, finally, everyone's favorite sixth man, the senior Kogure, hitting threes when threes are needed most. Against all odds, he is one of my favorite characters. He knows his role in the team, and he plays it with honor. But outshining my favorite character is the Buddha himself, Coach Anzai, the stand-in for motherfucking Phil Jackson, the Zen master, coach in the best era and for the greatest team of all time, the 91-98 Bulls. That's right, I need to mention, Slam Dunk is a love letter to the best period of the NBA. Takehiko was a major fan of American basketball. All the characters I've mentioned and have yet to are based on real players. Sakuragi is a wild Dennis Rodman, Hikagi Patrick Ewing, Ryota Kevin Johnson. The jerseys themselves reference the teams they're inspired by: Shohoku the Bulls, Kainen the Lakers, with their star player Maki, aka Magic Johnson. If you have an interest in basketball, this anime gets you hooked on the comparisons, cheering for each game like you're watching a live one. The adrenaline you feel in anticipation for the final score is no other. I'm personally more attached to Shohoku than any real team I've watched, and maybe that's because I've seen the team grow and flourish in the back end, which is exactly why sports anime is so loved. You get to watch your team go through their entire journey, not just during game time, but in practice, in their daily lives. I get to know their inner motivations, watch the blood, sweat, and tears, the injuries they overcome and persevere through. Slam Dunk is a great take on basketball as a whole. Its manga counterpart, better in every way, but the anime still delivers in a way that makes it stand the test of time. And then there's Kuroko's No Basketball. Slam Dunk was a, for the most part, grounded and realistic approach to the world of basketball. Were the high schoolers playing an insane skill level for their age? Yeah, but wait till you see a green-haired kid hit a full-court shot, not once, not twice, but thrice. If basketball had superpowers, then you'd have Kuroko no Basket, a show that writes these superhumans off as just good at the game. They're just the generation of miracles, as they call it, which makes them sound like God's chosen people. If the devil needs crossed up, he'll be sending these boys instead of doing it himself. Slam Dunk excelled in bringing basketball to the world of shonen anime. Kuroko went the other way around, bringing shonen in all its power, scale, and glory to the court. Players have callouts for their moves: Meteor Jam, Vanishing Drive, Emperor's Eye. This shit gets crazier the deeper in you get. If you thought Slam Dunk's players were abnormally good for their age, you have to see this. I love this anime, for reasons different than Slam Dunk. Gone is the focus on development of characters. Sure, it still lingers around with these miracle players trying to reignite their passion for the game, but the focus falls more on the game itself and the level they're playing at. The Gen of Miracles broke up after middle school, choosing different paths in high school, all still joining their basketball teams, which sets up the inevitable confrontations between the different members on the court. They had hard-wiped any team they faced and got bored, so they longed to play against each other. There, however, was more than 5 that made the Miracle team what they were. They had a 6th man, the undetectable ace passer, the greatest assist player any team could ever ask for. But he became undermined by his teammates, who were all more focused on individual stats than assists. Our protagonist is none other than the underdog support player, Kuroko, who builds his team up at his new high school. Lucky for him, a boy with the skill sets of a Miracle player just so happens to be a first year as well. Kagami, freshly back from the magical basketball land that is America, a place these basketball anime treat as the Holy Land, holding special soil that turns all my American brethren into straight ballers. We'll get back to that later. Seiden is then set up to take on all the various Generation of Miracle teams to win the finals, a classic shonen trope that really never gets old. Each arc of this show is well-paced and full of love. The stakes continue to get higher, the players continue to get better. We're watching the pinnacle of superpowered sports anime, which honestly deserves a genre of its own. The otherworldly abilities makes this such a drastic shift from the days of Slam Dunk, but it's welcomed all the same. So what are these powers you speak of, and how insane are they? I can hear you asking. I'll cue you in, starting with the Miracle players. The blonde all-rounder Kisei Ryota has the ability to copy any move he sees on the court, including the other Miracle players, though this has a heavy effect on his stamina. Midorima, the three-point shooter, is able to make a 3 from anywhere on the court, as long as the ball leaves his hand and remains untouched. That shit's going in. Aomine, the ace of the group, is just pure raw talent. He can drive to the hoop like limp spaghetti, making it near impossible to prevent him from scoring. Murasaki Bada, the 6'10 giant, monster on defense, and unstoppable in the paint. Half the time he doesn't even bother playing offense. His team once won a game 81-0, and the fifth man is none other than Akashi, a sociopathic monster that all the other miracles revere. He's the point guard of the group with the Emperor's eye, able to read opponents' movements and predict their plays. He can visualize the entire court in the game and make decisions in a split second to set them up for victory, and even drop defenders like they're newborn babes. It's no wonder with a stacked team of demigods they got bored of playing against teams which pale in comparison. And lucky for us, that means we get the classic underdogs taking on the mighty and strong. Satan's players are grounded, even though two of them excel over the other three starters. These quote normal players still match up against the other members of the Miracles teams. The pacing here is perfect. The character's not as deep as Slam Dunk, but enough to still get you attached on a personal level. It was everything you wanted in an anime series, and then they made a movie. This is what Japan visualizes of Americans. Now, supposedly these guys are between the ages 15 and 18. Yeah, I've never seen a teenager that looks like they do. I guess at 17, Japan thinks you should have a full sleeve of tats or be going bald. If you like the original run of the series, then you're gonna love this movie. Our American street ballers take on Japan's high school finest in a game to decide if Japan is skilled enough to compete on the global scale. The stakes have been raised. They're playing for the pride of their nation, and these street ballers have powers that rival the generation of miracles. Kuroko gets the middle school team back together for one last ride, adding Kagami to their ranks, and what follows is nothing short of peak sports anime. Now I need to mention the zone, a pivotal part of the Kuroko basketball world, bringing inspiration from what real players describe as the zone where you begin playing at your highest level. Achieving total concentration, peak fitness, it really is a legend among athletes. The zone has been brought to life here, as with everything in this anime, as a superhuman state. Players in the zone can only be stopped by another player in the zone, entering a stalemate until, surprise, you enter the zone after the zone, characterized as the true zone. Small spoiler, this true zone is when highly skilled players adapt to playing in the zone with their teammates, making the entire team play at, say, 110% of their abilities. Now I won't explain any further. Go watch the movie, go watch the show. Kuroko no Basket is a fully complete experience. Unlike Slam Dunk's half-finished story, before Takehiko finally pulled the plug after Toei continued to ignore his notes for how they were treating his narrative. This anime stands the test of time, has rewatchability. I mean, I can't really recommend it enough. It's an anime first and a basketball show second. A different take on the genre than Slam Dunk, setting itself apart. Not every anime can pull that off, which is what ties us into the final member of the Trinity. I may be setting Ahiru no Sora for failure, but the reality of it is it just can't compete. It's playing 2 men down, a minute left, and 10 points behind. It has character-driven basketball like Slam Dunk, but fails to reach the same heights of charm and depth despite its very earnest attempts. Its animation budget was lackluster, and so can't compete with Production IG's S-tier performance when it comes to on-the-court action, often resorting to short spurts of animation mixed with slideshow. It falls to the same weakness of Slam Dunk with slow-ass pacing, yet despite this all, it still manages to be a great show, just the ugly duckling of the Trinity. There's other basketball anime out there, yet this one still deserves its spot, not out of pity, but because of the passion in Takeshi Hinata's story. He wrote a basketball anime about those who struggle to find their place in a sport that is driven by raw talent and genetics. The players we follow all struggle under the weight of their passion for the game that's under fire from either their lack of abilities, lack of perfect genetics, or in one of their cases, just social ineptness. Driven from his young age to play, Sora is forced to outperform others to simply make up for his lackluster height. The twin brothers Chiaki and Momoharu gave up the game after a bad middle school experience. Chiaki's raw talent as a point guard undermined it, Momoharu giving up when faced with reality that where he lacks in talent, he must persevere. Kaname struggles with the expectations of a tall player, leading him to quit instead of fighting through the anxiety. Kenji must learn what it means to play team basketball and hone his raw talent and diverse skill set to lift up his teammates. Kuzuryu High is charming, they feel grounded, and unlike Seiyurin and Shohoku, none of them are NBA All-Stars on the court. Their games feel like high school basketball, and maybe that's a turnoff for some, but it's what sets this anime apart and gives it its own space to define itself and what it wants to be. A story of students who have a passion for the game and will put in the work to pursue their dreams of nationals. It's an age-old story at this point in sports anime, but it still shines when the characters feel right and the games are interesting. Maybe this isn't the best or greatest, but it's still a solid series, though it may always fly under people's radar. If only more people gave it a chance, if only Production IG gave this anime the same treatment they gave Kuroko no Basket. Maybe after one basketball anime, the task of following it up drained them. Either way, we may never see a season 2, as Takeshi has expressed his dissatisfaction with the anime adaptation, just as we never got to see the final chapters of Slam Dunk. Or did we? May it be from the popularity and love for the manga, or the desire to see the boys get their shot on the silver screen. A movie was born to round off the story of Slam Dunk, ironically called the first Slam Dunk, despite it being the final arc of the manga. Speaking of the manga, this movie knew what they were working with. Gone is the overbearing in-your-face humor of the original series. Sure, we learned to appreciate the charm that it offered, but the replacing tone is exactly what any manga reader was craving from the beginning of the series. Sakuragi acts like, how he should. The game finding itself in the spotlight, intense as hell, and the movie's emotional side falls in the backstory of our point guard, Ryota. Mixed within the game itself are bits and pieces of flashbacks well done to flesh out his story and motivation to push himself on the court. Emotions run high as we watch him struggle to adapt against the powerhouse Sano. I won't spoil any more and I'll just leave it at that. This is what Slam Dunk had been craving to be for years. The best basketball anime has to offer. The perfect mix of character depth with a sport that caused you to click on this to begin with. It's a yin and yang relationship, and why sports anime can be more entertaining than watching the real thing. We as people love stories, love watching someone rise from nothing to something, overcome their grief and sorrow. The classic triumph over adversity. That thought that we too can put work in and achieve something great. Maybe there will be setbacks, maybe it won't be just as we pictured it, but the important thing is we tried with all our heart and body. Slam Dunk gave me that. From the moment this movie started, I knew, in my soul, that Slam Dunk deserved to be number 1. Yet despite this, it's still up in the air if I can truly crown it as king of the basketball trinity. Slam Dunk faced many issues, only to realize its full potential with a movie released 25 years after the end of the anime. Now I blame Toei producers for that. A Slam Dunk series with the emotion and tone of the movie would have made this conversation easy and finalized. It would have been a blowout. But with the faults of Slam Dunk in mind, and Kuroko no Basket the most fun and ridiculous basketball you'll ever see, it's best we consider all our choices. Ahiru no Sora trails behind the other two, but still finds itself offering a more grounded and real approach than the other pair. It definitely deserves the 3rd slot for giving us something that had promise. And if you do enjoy its story, it's probably best to just read the manga. Each of these has something different to offer, and your personal opinions and experience may affect what you see as the quote greatest basketball anime of all time. But for me, it's not too hard of a pick. As someone who's always put story before effects, the first Slam Dunk movie was all it took for the series to outshine Kuroko's no Basket. Strictly speaking, in the realm of anime, if the first Slam Dunk never happened, I'd be giving the crown to Kuroko. But that movie brought the manga to the animation world in just the right way, with raw emotional storytelling, intense immersive basketball, and just the greatest sports anime ending of all time. It drifted from the manga's ending, with Takehiko's permission, crafting something that paid homage to the original, while also offering a new perspective and end to the Shohoku players and their future. I love watching players go against unbeatable odds, and whether they win or lose, giving their effort for the chance. I love watching people grow and mature, learning new things about themselves, their limits, their weaknesses, their strengths. Something so human in us draws us to people and characters who earnestly use their time to chase something greater, a dream that is waiting to be fulfilled. Whether we reach its full light or just catch a glimmer of what it could be, no one knows. You can only choose to chase your ambitions, or choose to lie down in a pit of regret, refusing to even try. Always choose to chase the future you want. It's not about whether you'll get there, it's about the journey along the way, and the person it'll make you into, win or lose, succeed or fail. It's a dream I'm able to create these videos and reach people like you. It's something I'll forever be grateful for, as I continue to chase a higher goalpost and find where my limits lie. Find where my journey will take me, and where my journey may end. This has been the Basketball Anime Trinity, and whether you love basketball or anime, whether that be the classic shonen powers, deep well-written characters, or a team of raw and ordinary people, there's something to love in all the members of this anime trinity.